Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Happy Pokemon Day. There's a lot of cool announcements coming out this morning. I hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Wednesday. If you are tuning in live on Behance, welcome. If it's your first time, definitely let us know. Let us know where you're tuning in from. I'm streaming live from Los Angeles this morning, and my name is Howard Pinsky. I forgot to mention that. Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe. And good morning to Jason, Angelina, and Eric, L, Daniel, Mock, Adobe Live, Gusbot in the house, Marilyn, Ann, and all the amazing people that are joining us bright and early, or maybe late, wherever you are on this amazing Wednesday. Nadine from Michigan. Yeah, let us know where you're from. I always love hearing where people are from all around the world. Someone from Russia. Awesome. Welcome. So, what do we have planned for today? Well, let me hop over to my screen for a second. And here is the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge landing page, behance.net/Daily Creative Challenge. Very simple to remember. And this is day number, is it day number 6, 7? 7, I think. Day number 7, I believe. We're in the home stretch. We have 2 more days left. Today, tomorrow, and Friday. And then we're done for this time. But more challenges are definitely coming. And hey, from Bangladesh and Belgium and Brazil and Colombia. Awesome to see all of you. So, what's this all about? Well, every single day you've been receiving a challenge. We started last Tuesday. We're now at Wednesday, so we're almost at 2 weeks. And every day at 8:30 in the morning, you're going to be joining me live from sunny Los Angeles. And I'm going to be kicking off each day's challenge. And your task is to use Adobe XD to design and prototype whatever that challenge is. And if you've kind of been paying attention and following along, we've been doing one large challenge over the course of 2 weeks. We've been designing a music app from scratch. So we started with a design system back last Tuesday. It seems like forever ago, but it was just last Tuesday. We progressed to low fidelity screens. We defined the user flow. We learned how to share and review, and we're going to be revisiting this at some point. Then we jumped into high fidelity. We took 2 days to kind of polish up those high fidelity screens. And along the way, we kind of revisited the design system once in a while. We revisited the user flow. And that's really kind of the design process. Obviously, if you're in real world and you're designing this in real time, it's probably going to take you a lot longer than 2 weeks to design out an app. It might take you 2 weeks to define the user flow or the design system. But that's kind of part of the process. Even when you get to the high fidelity phase, you might have to go back and tweak the design system or completely change the user flow. It's all part of the fun. You can also join us on Slack. There's a big blue button at the top. Usually that's register, but because we're coming down to the wire, we're almost finished with this challenge. It is a join us on Slack button. And let me hop over to Slack for a second to see how things are going. Here's the announcement section, 14,108 people. And if you do have any problems joining with this button, we will post a link in the chat so you can join through there. There's some caching issues from time to time. And just out of curiosity, is there another application that you all prefer over Slack? Maybe we'll explore something else in the future. But for now, we're definitely on Slack. There's a lot of people in here. You can ask questions, and I've noted I was jumping in some of these feature requests this morning, way to group colors, blend modes, that sort of thing. What I would encourage all of you to do is head over to adobeXD.uservoice.com. This is really where, well, one of the places that the team jumps into to really figure out what features are coming next, what features they should prioritize. And there's a great feature request section within User Voice. And if you go over here to the right, and this is where designers come in and they upvote what requests they really want. That's kind of why Auto Animate came to be, because designers wanted micro interactions. Tap and hover is the top most requested feature, so there's a very good chance that is being worked on as I speak. And Michael is saying Discord. Discord's a good option. Micro animate individual interactions, scrollable areas, import videos and GIFs. Is it GIFs or GIFs? You tell me. Guide. So there's a lot of really good features, and the team uses this to prioritize. So if there's a feature that maybe you really want in XD but isn't really in the top of this list, definitely go find it, hit that upvote button, and the team talks to designers every single day at conferences, on Slack, on whatever it might be. So MySpace. Yes, Connor. Let's go back to MySpace. But there's a lot in the works. I've seen the roadmap for 2019. Woo, I'm excited. All right, so enough of that. when you are publishing your designs, make sure to use the keyword XD Daily Challenge so we can see your stuff. I just want to point out one design that kind of stood out to me that came in yesterday's from Powells. And this one looks really cool. It's like this vinyl, really retro neon look. And then there's, I think I showed some of this last week, I want to say, or maybe even earlier this week, but Powells definitely, expanded on this in the user flow look. And I love that the user flow kind of follows the aesthetics of that neon retro look. I think it's really cool. And then he put in some hi-fi designs, which look great. And then there's a lo-fi interaction. You can just launch this, and Auto Animate does now work on the web. So it's loading all this stuff in, and we can see the hotspots, click on these things. And this definitely is a lo-fi. You can drag, and look at that, drag now works on the web. Fancy. The team is working hard at a lot of different cool things. All right, so I'm gonna close this. Let's get going. Let's hop over to Adobe XD and let's get, actually, did I even tell you what the challenge is for today? The challenge is advanced prototyping. So we're gonna basically take some of the high fidelity screens that we worked on over the last 2 days, and we're gonna bring them to life. We're gonna add some basic prototyping, we're gonna add some advanced prototyping using Auto Animate, and we may even touch on some voice, which is cool. So, to Adobe XD, let's go. Here we go. So here's kind of where we left off yesterday. Again, as I mentioned yesterday, looking at what I've done here, it's not even close to what all of you have done. This is not very good, but you know, I have limited time. You have hopefully maybe a little bit more time, but you guys and gals have produced some pretty good stuff. I've been very impressed. So we're gonna start basic and we're gonna progress to a little bit more advanced. On the basic level, there are, there are cuts and there are dissolves. So I'm gonna hop into prototype mode right here at the top. That's the prototype button right there. And I'm gonna simply click on my first artboard, and you can see how we have a handle here. Now this will allow me to use a time transition if I want, or a tap on the entire artboard. But I want to go to an actual button. So I'm gonna click on the button here, and it is grouped. If I go to my layers panel, you'll notice it's a symbol, and that's linked to my design system. So if I go back to the design system and update it, it's gonna also update on this document. Link symbols are really cool. If you missed any of that, definitely go back and watch some of the previous streams. And with that done, I can simply click and drag on this handle, move it down to this artboard here, boop. And for this, I do want a user to be able to tap. I'm gonna choose transition because there's really nothing on this artboard to animate. So I'm gonna do a simple transition, and we have a few different options. We can do none, which is basically just a very quick cut. We can dissolve, which crossfades between the two, or we can slide or push left, right, up, or down. And of course, it doesn't make sense to do up or down, but let's go ahead and slide left. And you'll notice when I do that, I can choose, let's say, in and out, and 0.4 seconds. Now to preview this thing, I'm gonna press the play button at the top, and then when I press on the login button, the new screen slides over to the left. And it kind of overlaps the previous artboard just a little bit. And if I did push left, let me show you what that looks like. Push left, you'll notice that both artboards kind of move at the exact same speed, which kind of looks nice as well. So we'll leave it at that. We're not going to get too fancy. Now the next artboard we want to do is we want to simulate a drag effect. So let's say someone's on this artboard here and they want to move this over to the left so you can see this additional album. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete this home screen, this additional home screen, and just duplicate this downwards. And this will really help. When you're duplicating artboards and you're using Auto Animate, it'll help tremendously because it ensures that your groups are the same names, your layers and the symbols, everything is kind of lining up. And that's very important so Adobe XD can determine what has changed on both artboards. And yeah, you can also use Command or Control Enter to see the prototype. You can definitely do that. So let's say we want to drag this over to the left. I can stay in prototype mode, go down here and simply grab this entire repeat grid, and I'm just gonna drag it over. Just like that, nothing too crazy. Perfect. Now I do have a wire, I'm gonna break that for now. And I'm gonna grab this repeat grid here, drag the handle just like you did in the previous example, drag it to the second artboard, and instead of a tap trigger, we're going to use drag. And auto animate is going to be the default action because we do want it to animate between the two artboards. I'm not going to worry too much about easing because it doesn't really come into play when you're doing drag work. And I'm going to press play and drag this over. And there you go. Super simple stuff, right? And I didn't notice that I forgot to link up this artboard to the home screen. So I'm going to very easily do that. Press login, slide that over. We're going to do a tap. It's going to be a transition, and we'll do also push left just like we did before with an in and out. So from the beginning, we can click on the login button, enter our credentials, press login, are brought to the home screen, and just drag over. Great. So now we're going to get a little bit fancy. This is where the fun begins. So down here we have this bar, which is our currently playing section. Whatever you want to call this, this is what it is. And if you caught yesterday's stream, we got a little bit fancy setting this up. We actually created a mask, and inside of this mask at the bottom contains a bunch of elements that you can kind of see that are hidden at the bottom because the mask is only this section here. And that is actually containing these elements, right? So because this mask currently, take a look at the group, and this is important. The group is called currently playing. There's also a mask within it called currently playing, and there's the shape that we use. There's all the elements, and then we have the navigation, the bar background, right? And if we go over here to this artboard, we have the exact same hierarchy. We have the group currently playing, mask currently playing, and then we have all those elements. It's very important that when you're auto animating, that the groups, the masks, the layer names, everything lines up across both artboards. And sometimes the stacking order also matters, right? Now, when I do that, when I go to prototype mode and I click on, let's say, this bar at the bottom, I'm going to drag this handle over to this artboard here. I'm going to do a tap transition, but I want, instead of a transition, I also actually want auto animate. I'm going to do, let's say, we'll do ease in and out, and we'll start with 1 second just so you can see everything happening in real time, a little bit slower, then we'll speed it up. And when you select auto animate, it essentially instructs Adobe XD to look at the differences between this artboard and this artboard. So the artboards that are linked up, and it'll animate the changes automatically. It's really cool stuff. So let's see this in action. Hey, Chris, welcome. Good morning. Good morning to Anel and David and everyone else who's Peter Del Tondo, one of our amazing mentors. Not that Chris is not an amazing mentor. He's also an amazing mentor, but welcome everyone. So we're going to press play. Let me move this stuff out of the way so you can see it. And watch what happens when I press on the currently playing bar at the bottom. Everything, all that stuff is going to slide up. Let me do that one more time. So all those elements are sliding up from beyond that mask. The mask is expanding, and that album artwork got a little bit larger. There we go. And there, you'll probably notice that there's one of these text layers, because it was above everything, it was the just for you, it was kind of on top. So what I can just do, make sure that just for you is actually underneath currently playing. And I'm going to do that and make sure it's perfect. Okay. If I play that again, bam, fancy, right? So now we're going to get even fancier. So let's say when you press on that, the song is automatically going to start playing. So obviously we want it to transition to a different screen, but we also want, instead of a play button, we might want a pause button. So I'm going to hop to my design system, grab my play button, make sure it's a symbol. I'm going to Command or Control K to turn it into a symbol. I can make sure to name this symbol, let's say pause button. There we go. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to make sure to save the document. It's very important when you're working with link symbols to save the source document first. Copy it. Whoops. Copy it. There we go. And I'm going to pop it over here. There we go. So there's the symbol. Whoops. I'm going to go inside my mask. I'm going to paste the symbol. Now, here's where things get interesting. We're going to actually swap this symbol because I want all instances of this play button to swap to a pause button. So now that this symbol is included in my assets panel, I'm just going to delete it from my artboard. But I'm going to drag the pause button on top of the play button, and it's going to swap it. But it's not going to swap it just there. If I go over to this artboard, go inside of the mask, you're going to notice it's also a pause button. Because when you swap a symbol, it swaps it throughout your entire document, which is super cool. So now if I play this again, I actually want to make this transition a little bit slower. We now have a pause button, but there's really nothing that lets us know that this is playing, right? So there's a few things we can do. The first thing I'm going to give you some options and you can kind of roll with it as you please. So I'm going to drop this down here just so we have some room. And the one thing we can do, we can actually rotate. I've seen a few people do this. We can rotate this album artwork at the top to kind of, be like a record player where it's spinning in a circle. So I'm going to find this layer, this one here, and over here to the right, I'm going to change the rotation to 360 degrees. Now it doesn't look like anything happened, but we basically told Adobe XD that we want this to rotate completely around. So now when we animate this thing, we're going to do a time transition. So we have to select the entire artboard. We're going to drag this down, pop that there. We're going to do a time transition, which is only available when you have an entire artboard selected. We're going to do a delay of 0 seconds because we want it to take place immediately. And we'll do, let's say, an in and out. Sure, sounds delicious. And we'll do 5 seconds. It might be a little bit too slow, but we'll see what happens. So now when we play this artboard and we click on the bar at the bottom, it's going to automatically transition and start rotating. Fancy. And what we can do is we can also have additional artboards. If we wanted to keep that going, we'd have more time transitions to move on to the next artboard. But we also have to make sure that this moves, right? Now this is where things get a little bit weird because it's not as easy to, create a number. You can use a masked layer to create a number counter, which basically will have this tick up or down, whichever direction you want to go. But we would need a few artboards for that. So we're going to pretend that this doesn't even exist, but we are going to move this over. Let's say this is 5 seconds and we're going to grab this and move that over as well. So now let's see that one more time. Let's move this stuff out of the way, click on this, and things start moving. And you're noticing not only does this start moving, but this moves as well. So there's a lot of really cool things you can do with Auto Animate with really just like 2 or 3 artboards. And as you're building out your music app, really start thinking about some of the cool things that you might want to do. And once you publish this on Behance or wherever it might be, it'll look pretty cool working on the web, and all this stuff will work. All right, so let's do two more things. We're gonna touch on overlays, and we're gonna do a little bit of voice. So overlays, as I kind of showed in one of the previous streams, allows you to use elements like keyboards or search fields or whatever it might be, as you can kind of hook them up to multiple artboards stemming from a single source. So in this case, I might want this screen. So when someone presses the search button, it'll go to this screen here, and then it'll automatically pop up a keyboard. So let me do that. I'm going to pop into prototype mode. On this artboard, I'm going to press search. I'm going to slide it over here to the right. And even though there's not a lot that would animate on this artboard, I am going to choose Auto Animate because we do have this little tiny, whatever you want to call it, indicator at the bottom that'll slide over. It'll be kind of fun, but all the other layers that are not present on the other artboards will basically just transition to a dissolve. So don't worry about that. We're going to go, let's say a very quick 0.4 seconds. We'll do in and out, and we'll do Auto Animate. Perfect. All right, let's see how this looks. So when we press on search, the little indicator slides over and this screen comes up, but we don't have a keyboard at the moment. So let's get a keyboard. So we're going to click on the entire search artboard. And just like I mentioned before, time transitions are only available on entire artboards. I'm going to drag this handle over to the right. Time transition, 0 seconds. But instead of Auto Animate or transition, I do want an overlay. And this will allow me to move this keyboard anywhere I choose. And I do want to make sure that it doesn't slide left, it actually slides up from the bottom. And we'll have it, we'll ease it out, it's probably fine, and 0.2 seconds. So now when I press search, it automatically transitions, and then the keyboard slides up from the bottom, allowing us to type what we want. So those are overlays, and I could hook up this keyboard to all these other artboards if they did have search fields on them. But that's the cool thing about overlays. But before we end up, let's go ahead and touch on voice just a little bit. So from this artboard here, let's say this artboard here, we have this, I changed this to a little voice icon. And what we can do is we can actually use this, let me go back to prototype mode, to give voice commands. So let's say I wanted to ask my app to see what's currently playing, or play Get on My Boop, right? So I can just drag this to this artboard here, and instead of tap or drag, it's going to be voice. And I'm going to type in play Get on My, oh no, play Get My Boop on. There we go. And it's going to auto animate just like we did before. We'll do in and out with 0.6 seconds, I believe it was. There we go. And now what I'm able to do when I press play, you're noticing we have this bar at the bottom because it did detect that there's a voice trigger. And all I have to do is hold down my space bar and say that line. Play Get My Boop on. And there you go. It works. Beautiful. And we can also use voice speech playback, which is kind of fun. So let's say when it gets to this screen, when it's actually rotating, it says something back to us. This is going to be interesting. I don't know what it's going to say, but we'll figure it out. So we have the entire artboard selected. We're going to click on this. It's going to be a time transition with 0 seconds, and it's going to be a speech playback. And we have, if you notice, if you haven't used voice in a while, we have all these different names. We have different, voices and everything like that. Male, female, young, old. So let's say playing Get My Boop on. I hope you enjoy. Now, of course, this wouldn't make sense in this environment. It would probably actually have the audio playing, but we don't have audio supported in Adobe XD yet. Maybe that's something that's being worked on, but it's not there yet. So let's see how that looks and sounds. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it on my computer, but if not, you'll have to trust me. Play Get My Boop on. There it goes. So it had to complete the animation first, and then it played the time transition with the speech playback. Hopefully you heard that. But you can also, let me actually make this animation much quicker so we can get there quick. And then we can choose a different voice. Let's do Matthew. Play Get My Boop on. There you go. Really cool stuff. Cat is blown away. Voice in the XD is definitely used by a smaller group of designers, but with voice assistants like Alexa or Siri or whoever it might be becoming so popular, and even applications like this are now integrating voice within their applications. It's super cool to see that this is now available in Adobe XD. So let's go through this one more time before we wrap things up. Let me actually, before we do that, let me get rid of that voice trigger, and we'll put this back to, we'll do 5 seconds. All right, so what did we accomplish this morning in just the 20 some odd minutes? The background music is too loud. There we go. That should be a bit better. So, oh, you couldn't hear it? I'm sorry. Well, it did play, trust me. It's difficult when we're streaming in voice. We don't want to make it too loud because then you won't be able to hear me, but it works, I promise. So here, this is what we did today. We have this very basic prototype where we press login. It does a simple push over to the left, showing us our login screen. We can press login. We can get to the home screen. We can then drag this slider up at the top. And we can also, if we wanted to, we can set up drag on any, we can set up drag on any of those other repeat grids if we wanted to, but we stuck with one for the sake of time. And then we had this bar at the bottom which shows a currently playing song, and when you click on that, it slides up from the mask and it starts rotating to start playing the song. And you'll also notice that this indicator at the bottom also started sliding over to the right. We also explored time transitions and overlays. So if you press search, it'll automatically slide up a keyboard using an overlay. And I think that's about it. And then we talked about voice. So if we were here, play Get My Boop on. And there we go. Fantastic. You should use the creepy voice that you discovered a few weeks ago. Yes, that was really creepy. There's one of the voices in there. It's a younger child. It's kind of creepy. Watch our stream with me and Michael a few weeks ago. It was interesting. All right, so that will just about do it. I'm super excited to see all of your amazing animations and prototypes that you all publish to Behance tonight, tomorrow, Friday, whenever it is. I'll definitely be taking a look at them. And on Friday, I'm going to be taking a look at a lot of stuff. So definitely come on Friday morning. We're going to take a look at some fun stuff. So thanks so much for joining me, everyone. I'll see you bright and early on tomorrow morning. And then stick around. We have some great designers coming up all day for UI and UX week. And I'll see you all very soon. Bye.